back to another session of GCAN, Gallant Current Affairs and News Analysis. So here we will be looking at the news analysis of 6 days from November 1 to November 6. So by here I have about 29 topics with me today, and here we will be actually dealing focused on prelims kind of topics that was actually in the 1 to 6 November topics. Now we have the DGP appointment, One Nation One Registration Scheme, the India-Sri Lanka debt restructuring, India-Bhutan relationships, our 2+2 dialogue with the United States, CTBT is vogue, so we will be looking into that too. Whose Southeast Asia regional platform, like there was elections happening from Bangladesh and Nepal, so we will be looking into who won and what is that kind of regional platforms. UNESCO Creative List, UN Office of Drugs and Crime, FATF and India, what is the status, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, Delhi air pollution in severe category, Medigada barrage and the National Dam Safety Authority, Dadia forest fires in Greece. Then we have the Deep Ocean Mission, we have the Pegasus and the cybercrime state sponsored attacking, then UK AI summit, then oligopoly control over rare minerals, IL-38 aircraft to be decommissioned. We have Zika virus, Helicobacter pyrrhea, Akura Agartala railing between India and Bangladesh, Marlekotas, Mubarak Manzil, Butler Palace, Battle of Surabaya, Kore Pai Grass Mat, Mushroom Coffee, Rohini, Nair Prize and British Academy Book Prize. So these are the 29 prelims topic that we need to look into. So moving on to first topic, we have the DGP appointment. So usually how the DGP appointment usually takes place is that as per the Supreme Court ruling is that the thing is the state governments give some number of names to the UPSC. They recommend certain number of names like 5 to 10 names they recommend to the UPSC. The UPSC shortlist among them, they look into the eligibility, the criteria and everything and shortlist about 3 names and then give back to the state government. From only these 3 names, the state government can actually choose the DGP appointment. So as per this is the way how which the DGP has been actually appointed over the years. So there are some certain conditions of new appointment has been actually made under this. So the only point a police officer with at least 6 months of service left before retirement can be considered for the appointment of DGP. So usually what states do is that because they don't like the involvement of UPSC within the selection of their DGP in the state level, what the state government usually do is that they actually select the DGP officers who has only 2 to 3 months till retirement. So that when the person, the DGP appointed by the UPSC retires, the state government can actually appoint the DGP of their own wish. So the new state that at least a 6 months should be there before the retirement of the GDP that is actually considered for the appointment. Also this committee is known as the empanelment committee. It is constituted by the UPSC, will not assess IPS officers who are actually under the central deputation. The state government sometimes they wish they had the DGP officers who are actually police officers that are actually working at the central deputation level. So such kind of names who are actually in important work within the central level cannot be actually considered or shortlisted for the purpose of appointment as a DGP at the state government level. Then the guidelines also reduced, like earlier there was a requirement of 30 years minimum experience was actually needed. Now this was actually cut short to about 25 years. The number of shortlisted officers cannot exceed 3, that is also new. They cannot exceed 3, it can actually go below 3. The number of shortlisted officers, it cannot actually exceed 3. Also the officers will not be included in the panel unless they are themselves willing. That is also an important criteria that has been actually newly added. So under this there is a very important committee which you need to know, which you actually need to know. That is the Prakash Singh committee. As I have told you before that the state governments have usually what they do, they appoint 2 to 3 months. There are some state governments who does not actually appoint DGP alone, or they actually appoint DGP in additional charge or something, giving in the police officers who they have some kind of concession with. Example, if you are looking states like UP, Punjab, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana has actually appointed additional in-charge DDPs with full administrative charge or DPGs. Some such kind of persons has been actually appointed because they don't want the involvement of UPSC in the selection process. There are certain states like even you can see UP did not have a full-time DGP since 2022. That is the ground level reality of the appointments or appointment of DGP in India. Punjab has also passed a recent legislation to actually appoint DGP independently, but this has been actually put a stay by the governor, and no such actions cannot be taken unless the government give assent to the bill. So that is what is the recent development of why the state doesn't want the UPSC involvements as such. The Prakash Singh committee is a very important committee which comes to the police reform. Prakash Singh itself is a retired police officer and he has given out some kind of police reform. The UPSC had first framed guidelines for the preparation of panel for appointment to the post of state DGPs in 2009, and after Supreme Court verdict the police reforms case of, the Supreme Court gave out verdict after the police reforms case of 2006. The committee to appoint the state DGP is headed by the UPSC chairman and actually also includes the Union Home Secretary, the State Chief Secretary and DGP, and one of the heads of the Central Armed Police Force who are actually nominated by the Ministry of Home Affairs, who is not from the same state category. So there is a committee for the selection of state DGP that includes the UPSC chairman himself, Union Home Secretary, State Chief Secretary, DGP, and one of the heads of the Central Armed Police Force nominated by the Ministry of Home Affairs. So this is the amendment panel. This is an important committee which you actually need to know. This is actually given out from the Prakash Singh committee. You might get UPSC committee, saying the Prakash Singh committee is related to which of the following, maybe police, maybe banking. So you need to answer such as such. Now, these are the verdicts which actually came along as per this Prakash Singh committee. The 7 directives has been actually given out by the Supreme Court. Constitute a State Security Commission, 2 years of fixed security tenure for GDPs, then also 2 years for SPs and SHOs, separate investigation as well as the law and order functions, set up police establishment board, set up a police complaints authority, and set up National Security Commission at the central level. So these are the 7 kind of directives that are also given by the Supreme Court. This is the old rules before as per the Prakash Singh judgment of 2006, and this is a new kind of judgments that has been actually given out. The old judgment stated that the promotion should be based on the length of service. The officer is selected for the job, he should have actually minimum tenure of 2 years should be there. The GDP shall be selected by the state government from among the senior officers. The state government selection, this was actually before, this was the old rule as per the Prakash Singh judgment of 2006. So this is the new kind to select the DGP. Proposed will be sent to the UPSC. That is a new way to select the GDP. The old one didn't have UPSC and the state will select on their own, and the new one is that the UPSC will be actually part in the selection process, so that this entire process is actually a violation of the federalism, because the state authority will come to the state if the DGP is actually selected like that. Then the UPSC will actually prepare the names as per the Prakash Singh judgment as such, and it will actually try to choose within the number of the combination the 2 years of service. So this is the new, and that is the old kind of recommendation, and this is 7 directives. This is actually very important Prakash Singh committee. Moving on, we have the topic of One Nation, One Registration. This is actually mainly related to doctors. Now this was actually created by the National Medical Commission, so that all the doctors who are working in India could actually come and register under one platform, so that patients, we can actually identify ourselves, the physicians who are actually treating us. Now presently nearly the rate of about 14 lakh doctors are actually presently registered within the system. Now even if a state government denies a kind of license to practice for the doctors, they can actually give out grievance to the appeal to the ethics or medical registration boards, and they can actually file against the decision of the state medicine council within 30 days of receipt of such decisions. They can actually overturn the decisions taken by such state governments. If a state government doesn't actually give license to a doctor, they can actually go and give an appeal to the ethics and medical registration boards, and within 30 days they will actually come under a solution, and they might either appoint or overturn the decisions of the state government. Also, this National Medical Commission is actually a statutory body that is actually created under the National Medicine Commission Act of 2019. Now this present law, the National Medical Commission actually replaces the old Medical Council of India. So if you are comparing the old Medical Council of India as well as the National Medical Council, these are the the members has been actually reduced from 100 plus. In the Medical Council of India, there was more than 100 members. Now this was reduced to 25 years, the tenure was reduced to 5 to 4 years, and also the number of nomination also included. Majority of the people in the NMC are now nominated. Also, they could actually recommend or re-elect. These are nominated by the center and cannot be re-nominated. Then quorum also, they need actually 15 of 100 plus members to start the proceeding. They need 13 out of 25 members to actually start any kind of proceedings. The meeting, they only meet at least once a year. They have to actually meet every quarter, like at least 4 times a year. So that is the difference between the Medical Council of India and the National Medical Commission as such. So you need to remember, the one nation, one registration is related to the registration of doctors under a single panel. Now, India-Sri Lanka relationships. So we know in the last year Sri Lanka came under a major economic crisis. A lot of countries has been actually giving money or aids to Sri Lanka so that they can actually come out of their economic hardships, like India, China, Japan, even IMF has actually given out certain kind of loans. The thing is that the second category of the IMF loans, second tranche of the International Monetary funds as per the extended funds facility, for the second category to be actually released, there are some criteria that the Sri Lanka has to meet. The Sri Lanka has to actually restructure the debt with the existing countries like India, China, Japan, from which Sri Lanka has already taken some kind of aid. So if restructured, then the IMF will release a second tranche of the funds, which is actually about $330 million. It's about $330 million. If Sri Lanka is aimed to achieve this, the IMF would release actually these kinds of loan. India has also released about 4 billion Indian assistance to Sri Lanka. So this is very important. India and China was more than willing to help Sri Lanka out, but China is actually using it big cards here and trying to take better advantage of the situation. India has also given out about $4 billion of assistance to Sri Lanka. An important initiative that is actually mentioned under the Asylum Monthly Initiative, important concept that is actually mentioned under this article is NAM 200. It has been 200 years since the Indian labor system, where the British has actually taken the Indian Tamils from India to Sri Lanka, and since the last 200 years the Tamils has been actually living in Sri Lanka. So it has portrayed the Indian labor system that existed 200 years ago, where in India, the Britishers gave high hopes to India that you might get better opportunity working there, better salary, better wage, better livelihood conditions if you are working in Sri Lanka, and transported a lot of Indian families from India to Sri Lanka, and there they were actually engaged in plantation workers, where they were actually paid a very less labor, huge working hours and harsh working conditions, less pay, less wage, no rights, no vote, nothing. So under that is called the Indian labor system, that was under the British colonial system. But when the British went and the Buddhist majority, Sinhala Buddhist majority came and formed the state, they actually neglected this Tamil and they didn't even give statehood to Tamil, which actually started all the civil war happening between this Tamil, that is particularly called as the Malayan Tamil, also the Sinhala Buddhist. So that is marked as the NAM 200. So this India-Sri Lanka meeting also included more MOU and collaboration in the field of grid connectivity, aviation, power projects, oil exploration. As also we have actually signed an MOU about $15 million for the assistance of promotion of Buddhist ties between India and Sri Lanka. So this is the main initiative that has been actually taken place recently. Some of the MOUs have been signed in power connectivity, aviation and such. Also $15 million of assistance for promotion of the Buddhist tie. Remember what is actually NAM 200. See, if you are looking at the total debt structure of Sri Lanka, they have taken about 13% of they owe the 13% of the debt to Asian Development Bank, 47% from the market borrowing, China 10%, Japan 10%, World Bank 9% and India is mere of 2%. If you are looking from 1970, the debt structures has been actually increasing in Sri Lanka. From 2000, there was a high peak from 9.2 to 56.3 in the debt in US billion dollars. That's how much the debt has actually increased in Sri Lanka over time. From 2000, there has been a critically jump in the debt of Sri Lanka. Moving on, India, Bhutan. So recently in the newspaper you might have seen about the Bhutan-China talks of resolving their boundary index. So Bhutan always values India's foreign and national security as well. So with this, whatever decision that has been actually taken between Bhutan and China will also commemorate the national security of India as well. So because of the good friendship that India and Bhutan has, Bhutan visit, the Bhutan king visit, Bhutan king, that is the Jigme Kesar Mangyal Vanchak. Visit to India is also a big initiative which actually boosts the India-Bhutan friendships over the time. Not just a visit, they have actually talked about a lot of other things like the Bhutan India First, India-Bhutan rail link, which actually connects the Korkranch and the Gelpu, where the Bhutan plans to actually build an international airport and also create a special economic zone in the Sarpang region. They also want to create actually special economic zone so that they can actually industrialize that area. You know, Bhutan, it's actually a very environment friendly country. The terms of industrialization taken by Bhutan is actually comparatively very much low. So that they want to actually create a special economic zone within the present area and create a first railway link between India and Bhutan, connecting the areas of Korkranch and Gelpung. If you can see here, this is Kokranch is in actually Assam and Gelpang is in actually Bhutan. Now Doklam, you know, the disputed area between Bhutan, India and actually China. So this actually connect Gelpang and Korpan. They want to actually create a special economic zone in a district of Gelpang called the Sarang. So that is what this entire article has been talking about. They want to create a special economic zone so they can actually retain the Bhutanese characteristics. They could actually create more environmentally sustainable business, create opportunities for the youth, and thus that has been actually introduced. These has been the talks that has been going on between India and Bhutan recently with the visit of the Bhutan king. Moving on, India-US 2+2 dialogue. The 2+2 is mainly between the talk that is happening between the foreign ministers and the defense minister of two countries. If you are looking, we have the defense minister and foreign minister of India and the defense minister and foreign minister of US, which are coming together. That's the 2+2 dialogue to resolve the bilateral as well as the global issues in order. So here we have actually ensured 2+2 dialogues with 4 countries. We have the US, Australia, Japan and Russia. So these are the 4 countries which India has this 2+2 dialogue. So if you are looking at the global and the bilateral relations, if we are looking at the bilateral something in the point of foreign view, we can talk about the Ukraine war, the Israel-Hamas war that is actually happening, the reforms which we want to take in IMF and World Bank. So these are some of the criteria that are actually under consideration. Also the China and its initiative in the Southeast Asian policies. If you are looking at the defense sector, we are actually purchasing P-81 Poseidon from USA. We are actually buying this MQ-9B drones. We discussed in last class what is the MQ-9B drones. We are also purchasing this MQ-9B drones, the Sea Guardians, everything from USA. So from the foreign minister's point of view and the defense minister point of view, there are a lot of things that India and US has to actually talk about. So we need to remember what is the 2+2 dialogue, which are ministers come under as the foreign minister as well as the defense minister. Presently, India has 2+2 dialogue with only 4 countries, that is US, Russia, Japan as well as Australia. Remember these 4 names as well as what the 2+2 actually means. Now CTBT. In the last class we talked a lot about CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, and how the Russia was actually looking into reform this CTBT. So if you are looking at the background, it was actually adopted in the United Nations General Assembly in actually 1996. Now but it has not actually entered into force. Certain countries like China, Egypt, Iran, Israel and US have actually signed it but not ratified it. Countries like India, North Korea and Pakistan have not signed it, later on not ratified it at all. So far 187 countries has actually signed the treaty. Out of 187 countries, 178 has actually signed. But the thing is that as per the Annex 2 of the CTBT, there are 44 countries which has nuclear arsenals. And out of these 44 countries, 8 key countries has not signed, because of which this treaty cannot actually come into force. So Russia has actually revoked the CTBT. If you are looking in the USA, they have signed it but not ratified it, but Russia has signed and ratified it. They have actually revoked this ratification, and by that Russia can now actually test their nuclear weapons, and that is what Russia has actually done. After revoking this treaty, they actually have test fired the nuclear capable ballistic missile from a submarine. This particular system is actually called, this particular ballistic missile is called this Bulava. Now this was actually this Bulava ballistic missile was actually initially in development in 1998 and it kind of entered into complete force in about 2005. This ballistic missile is actually intercontinental and has a range of about 8,000 kilometers. That is actually the range, and it is 3-stage. It has 3-stage solid fuel. That is the main characteristics of this ballistic missile, that is called the Bulava. You can actually get the prelims question stating what the Bulava, the term Bulava recently in news depict what? It can be a ballistic missile, cruise missile, subsonic missile. So you can get any number of questions from that. So this is this Bulava 30 that has been actually developed by Russia. You can see the warhead. The thing is that they have multiple warheads, and multiple warheads can be actually given out in different direction. This is more advanced kind of intercontinental ballistic missile. It has a range of about 8,000 kilometers. When it has a range of about 8,000 kilometers, Russia can attack any number of countries, like any European countries can be actually attacked by Russia, because they have actually achieved a intercontinental ballistic range of about 8,000 kilometers. So that is what has been in use. If you are looking more into what this Bulava ballistic missile is, that you can see it is actually launched from a submarine. It's an intercontinental ballistic missile. It first came into comments in 1998 and later it was actually launched, test flight in actually 2005. This was actually deployed onto Russia's Bore class ballistic missile submarine. This was actually test fired from a submarine. So Bore class ballistic missile submarine will be actually inducted as Bulava ballistic missile. It is designed as the backbone of Moscow's nuclear triad and has a range of over 8,000 kilometers, like close to 5,000 miles. 3-stage solid fuel. It is actually designed to carry any number of multiple warheads, and each warheads can actually drive different targets. It can actually carry 6 multiple independent re-entry vehicles as such. So you know what is a ballistic missile is: a rocket propelled self-guiding strategic weapon system. So that is what has been in news. After just revoking CTBT, Russia has actually test fired this Bulava ballistic missile as such. Moving on, we have the WHO Southeast Asia regional position. In my last class, we told about the WHO Southeast Asia region, what are the 8 key pillaring area, the number of countries that are present in the WHO Southeast Asian region, and there was certain kind of election that has actually been happening for the elected member who will be the actually country, the representative of WHO this year in the Southeast Asia region. So the competition or the election was actually between Saima Wazad, who is actually the daughter of the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, and also the other person was actually Shambhu Acharya. He was a public health veteran from Nepal. The competition of the election was actually between the two persons, and the Sheikh Hasina's daughter Saima Wazir actually emerged victorious. India actually voted for the Saima Wazir, because the thing is that Nepal and Bangladesh both are good neighbors and good friends with India. It was actually really a tough choice for India to choose the person, but India still went ahead and chose the Bangladesh. Now there are 11 member countries who are actually under this WHO Southeast Asian region, which includes, we have the Bangladesh, Bhutan, DPR, North Korea, India, Indonesia, Maldives, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Thailand and Timor-Leste. But Myanmar is also present. Myanmar did not actually send a delegation to the meeting and did not actually vote at all. The newly appointed member will actually replace the present member who is actually an Indian, called this Poonam Khetrapal, and she will take place, the present Saima Wazir will actually induce into this in February 1. So there are 6 region classification for WHO. As you can see here, there is actually Eastern Mediterranean, there is actually American, one country, then we have the African Union, we have the Mediterranean Union, we have the European Union, we have the Western Pacific Union, as well as this blue as the Southeast Asian region. So these are the 6 region classifications of WHO. Moving on, we have the UNESCO Creative List. So recently, Gwalior has been actually added at the site for music. Kozhikode in Kerala, Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh has been added for site under the music, and Kozhikode in Kerala has been added on the site of literature. So totally 55 sites has been recently added by the UNESCO under this creative list, and some of the sites include the Bukhara in crafts and folk art, Casablanca in media arts, we have Chongqing in design, Kathmandu in Nepal for film, Rio de Janeiro for literature, Ulaanbaatar under crafts and folk art. So presently the creative list consists of total of more than 350 sites from about 50 cities from about 100 countries. So that much has been actually the growth under the UNESCO creative list. So you remember the recently added is Kozhikode for literature and Gwalior for music. The thing is that there are 7 classifications under which the UNESCO categorized. There is crafts, folk and art, there is film, there is media, there is literature, design, music, gastronomy is related to food and culture. That is what gastronomy is. So these are the 7 criteria under which the UNESCO adds cities into the creative list. We have the crafts and folk art, media and art, film, gastronomy, design, music and literature. So these are the 7 categories under which UNESCO creative site list is actually added. So if you are looking, this is not the first 2 sites to be actually added. This was actually created in 2004 and it actually looks into the SDG 11, that is the sustainable cities and actually communities. In India we have other cities which are designated under this. We have Srinagar under crafts and folk art, Mumbai under film category, Hyderabad gastronomy, which actually I told you is food and culture. We have Chennai under the creative city of music, Jaipur, craft and folk art, Varanasi, creative city for music. The thing is that you might actually get questions like Srinagar might be stated as film, Mumbai will be given as for craft and arts. If a such statement is there, it is wrong. You need to know the city and what the city has been actually designated under. So that is the important thing which you actually need to know. You should not actually confuse between the city and the criteria under which they are actually given out. Consider the following statements now. Then we have the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. So if you are looking at this news article, we know the Golden Crescent. Golden Crescent, which actually includes Afghanistan, Pakistan and Iran. Now these are actually known for the production of drugs and opium, but since the induction of Taliban into Afghanistan, there has been a reduction in 95% reduction in the production of poppy plant, poppy growth. There is a reduction of 95% as per stated by the United Nations Office of Drug and Crime. So in here we need to know what is the UNODC. So UNODC is the United Nations Office that was actually established in 1997. It is actually a member of United Sustainable Development Group. It is actually looking for a long-term better governance and such. There are a lot of themes coming under this: terrorism, money laundering, alternative development, anti-corruption, criminal justice, drug prevention and such. And important is the World Drug Report. The World Drug Report is actually released by the UN Office of Drug and Crime. This is very important. You should remember what the report has been actually released by this UN Office on Drug and Crime. So moving on, FATF and India. So you know what is FATF, Financial Action Task Force, which has been actually introduced by the G7. There has been actually initiative in 1989 by the G7 countries. Presently there are 39 members including 2 regional groupings. We have EU and as well as the Gulf Council. GCC also has the 2 regional members out of the 39 members of the FATF. India became a full member of the FATF in 2010. The thing is that there are 2 basic lists. There is blacklist and the grey list. You know there are 3 countries in the grey list. We have Iran, we have Myanmar and North Korea under this blacklist, and in the grey list we have certain countries like UAE, Nigeria, Turkey, Jordan, South Africa and etc. The countries of grey list or blacklist actually face economic sanctions. They have issues in getting credits and loans and such. These are some of the problems that the grey or blacklisted countries face unless they actually come out of the list based on this criteria or condition that the FATF actually goes. The thing is that after the 9/11, initially they actually looked into money laundering only, but after the 9/11 attacks they came to know that the money laundering is directly connected to that of this terrorist financing, under which they actually revoked this what the FATF again and included the money laundering and terrorist financing altogether. But the thing is, India actually looks into the FATF and follows the regulation that has been actually laid out by the FATF, and under this we actually created the we have the Money Laundering Prevention Act and we have the UAPA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. We have the Prevention of Money Laundering Act and the UAPA are the two such acts that we have actually given out in India to actually follow the guidelines of FATF. The funding and sourcing of unlawful includes the extortion, kidnapping, narcotics traffic, we have fraud, we have identity theft or something which comes under the money laundering. For terrorists we have extortion, kidnapping, like similar what of the unlawful source. Also the legitimate sources which can actually comes like the charitable donation, foreign government donation, all this comes under this terrorist financing as well. So India, the thing is that the recent news is that the FATF review will actually take place in India and they will actually get to know what are the conditions, how is actually India implementing PMLA and UAPA. All this will actually come under the negotiation and the further future months we will know what is the condition of India.